Welcome to the fish tank.
Hey everybody, Fishman here, and welcome to another video. This is going to be another nostalgia build. When I first started keeping fish a while back, almost all the fittings you could pick up for aquariums were in brass, and so I thought I would make a brass air valve. You could buy them for quite some time after I started keeping fish, but it switched over to stainless steel relatively quickly, and then after that, of course, into plastic, because plastic is easy. It's you can injection mold it, you can mass produce it so easily that everyone switched over to that. And it's also very cheap. But this is actually kind of a cool build. I've decided to use hex rod for the main body because I am going to need to drill a perpendicular hole for one of the fittings, and it's just an easy surface to work on. It could have been done on round as well. And also, of course, I could have made this much tinier if I had a lathe that was designed for that sort of work. I don't have a jeweler's lathe. I have a big beefy machine, and it does really great work, but it's not something, I mean, I probably could get collets for it, for working with finer materials, but the big 3-jaw chuck here I have, it does work down to reasonably small, but I'm not set up for it. Let's just put it that way. So this is the main body. I'm going to drill through, and then I'm going to tap it. I'm going to have to do two sides because the main long one, then I'm going to flip it over and do the short bit for the other side. It's just easier that way. Again, like I said, I have some machining materials. I just don't have a full machine shop. I don't have all the different stuff that you can need to do all the different types of work there are. But I have enough to get me by. So this is threading. The thing about threading is you just have to be careful with it. I've already done it. I'm just showing you how easy it is once it's done. But it's a bit more effort than that, and you have to go back and forth to clear the bits of brass out and stuff. But like I said, it's not that hard. This is the main piston. I'm taking it down to 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to thread that as well. I'm also going to do a couple other things to this. I want it not to just be an on-off. If that were the case, it wouldn't be too hard to machine, and it would just be a matter of right now of just threading that and then putting it all together. What I want to do is I wanted to make it also a fine adjustment. I want to have some amount of control over how much air is going to go through, and that's why this is so long. If I have a lot of threads there, they are going to obviously form a certain amount of impedance to the amount of airflow, and that will give me a certain amount of control over how much air there is. And then also that's the perpendicular threaded fitting that's going to go there. I'm going to put it up fairly, well, not quite halfway, and that way a lot of threads will go by it. So you see here, these are all set now for, that's the threaded end that's going to go in there, and then the nipple fitting is on the other side, which has already been turned down to the size for airline tubing. And the last little bit here I'm going to show you, once this fits down inside, it's going to go like this. So you can see there's going to be a lot of thread that's going to go by that. So it should give me, like I said, a lot of control over this. So now I have to drill the hole through so the air can go through. That's kind of important. And then I'm going to thread that little nipple on there and the other one, and then also thread, this is the long piston rod. This is actually quite straightforward. It's just a matter of just running the threads all the way to the end. And then in the next, I don't think I filmed the cutting process for the rest of it, but I'll show it to you in a second here. This is the crossfit. This is actually probably the most delicate part of this whole process. I mean, everything else so far right now has been really quite simple machining. But I got to use these clamps again, and I used a bit of rod there. This is a support on the back. I'm going to do a quick drill hole through, and then I'm going to only start this. I have to be very careful here not to damage the threads that I've already machined. So I'm going to just start it, get that going, and then I'm going to switch over to and do the rest of it by hand. It's not hard to do. It's like I said, the brass is easy to machine this way. And there you go. It's done, and that way I haven't, like I said, damaged the extra threads. Actually, if I had, it wouldn't be too big a deal. I could have just run it through again on the other side, but I just wanted to be careful with it. So here it is together. I'm going to take this apart now and show you how it all gets assembled. And then we're going to give it a spin, see how it works. So here it is unassembled. If you look at the piston on the left, you'll notice that all the threads have been removed except the ones in the middle. Now the ones on the right, the one on the very tip of it there, the reason I removed those is I want to machine that down and I want to true up the edge to make sure it fits really nicely into the fitting that I'm putting in right now. I want it to seat into there, and I want it to seat so that there's no air gets around it, so it'll have a definite hard off. And that's kind of important. So that's going to fit right like that. Well, not in this one, but in the other one. And it's going to, I think it should work quite well that way. And also I removed the threads from the top as well, because I just wanted to make sure this had full travel. And this way, you can, as you can see, it goes there. It's going by there now. You can see the threads going by it. And it's, like I said, it's nice and smooth. And it's got, like I said, full travel, which is kind of important. And then this goes all the way down. And then once it's fully down, it is clamped now basically onto the end bit, the end nipple. Now I could have removed some of the threads from this to give this a snugger fit, but like I said, I'm just building this for my own purposes, and this is good enough for me. There you go, it's done. Now I'm going to put this in an aquarium and try it out, but I'm going to do it two different ways. First, I'm just going to do it as is, but there's going to be a fair amount of air leak on the threaded fittings, especially the two nipples. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just try it out, test it, make sure it does at least reasonably what I want to do. But then when the machining is all done, I am going to set this up and we're going to glue everything in and we're going to see how well it works as it's supposed to work. I'm currently still in the middle of those renovations. I'm still tearing down tanks. I'm still doing a bunch of other stuff as well, and right now my camera is sitting on top of one of those tanks. I didn't really have any other space, so this is the only tank that I could actually film this in, because everything else is pretty much covered. So there you go. It's I put just a solid plastic rod here just to get the water all the way to the bottom. And here we go. We're just going to turn it, and it works quite well. But I noticed initially, like when I first did this, I thought that the amount of air coming out was really quite low. And obviously that's because the threads aren't glued yet, and it's just, they're getting a lot of air leak, and that's the reason for that. But the neat thing about it is it does turn off completely, which is kind of cool. So it does what it needs to do. So what I'm going to do now in the next clip here is I'm going to glue the two nipple fittings on. I'm not going to bother doing anything with the main piston. I could have added a thick lubricant like Vaseline or any sort of thick petroleum product as like a grease kind of thing, and that would have prevented any air leak there as well. But I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet. I just wanted it to be finished, so I'm going to leave it as is. There's a small amount of, just a tiny amount of air leak around the piston, but like I said, it's not really, I mean, I have two massive air pumps in this room, so it's not really a big deal for me. So I'm going to throw it in here just to show you that I'm not getting any air leaks anywhere else, but you can see, yeah, there's a bit of a leak around the main piston, which is, it's fine, it's not a big deal. So as soon as I turn this on, you're going to see a difference. There's actually going to be, I'm not losing hardly any air at all. This is actually really kind of cool. It certainly did exactly what I wanted it to do. And it's actually kind of the best way of doing an air valve as far as, you don't crimp hoses or anything with that way. I did one earlier where you just put the hose through and put a piston down on it, and it crimped the hose, and that gave you control over how much air went through it. It's not very good long term. So here you go. I'm going to crank the sucker up, and you're going to see that it does produce, I mean, all the air is coming out now. I mean, you can see the difference between this and the other one. So there you go. A little bit of a nostalgia trip. Obviously, this is beaver, the one that you would have picked up in a store. But like I said, I'm not set up for that kind of machining, so it was just like a fun little project for me. So if you like this style of video, please like and or subscribe, and I am going to continue with the reno on Friday. I have actually quite a bit done on that. It's kind of a more urgent process right now because apparently the newest pump in my room, which is new in the sense that the next oldest pump is 10 years older, the newest one gave out, which is really annoying. But it actually fits into the reno, which is kind of funny. So anyway, Friday I'll go over that and what's going on with that. But this build is pretty much finished. Let me know what you think below, of course. And thank you in, in advance for watching my stuff. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys in the next video, and bye for now.